Today I want to talk about the root causes behind insecurities. My first point is lack of self-trust. If you can't trust yourself, you can't rely on yourself to follow through, which means that you have no evidence or no support that you are a capable person, a responsible person, and that you have your own best interests as a number one priority for yourself. Part number 2. A lot of insecurities are caused by childhood trauma for a number of reasons. One of which is childhood is supposed to be a learning stage for children to basically test out limits and structure that they are supposed to then utilize in adulthood to function as an adult. So childhood is basically like a mini version of adulthood. And issues that children have in their childhood, they'll usually carry on to their adulthood. Because an individual's childhood is what sets them up to be a successful, healthy adult. That is why a lot of the time people who have childhood issues also have issues functioning as a normal adult. One key point that I wanted to touch on in terms of childhood trauma, there are so many different spectrums of childhood trauma. There can be physical abuse, there can be emotional abuse, and there can be neglect. Since we're currently talking about how these things basically tie into insecurities, I'm gonna focus on neglect in this case. So, like I said earlier, childhood is supposed to be a period of time where a child is basically learning how to be an adult. And what parents should allow their children to do is experiment in childhood, and also be given a certain amount of responsibilities. So what this will do for a child, and it all depends on a child's age, of course, but through the course of them growing up, there's different milestones and different levels of complexity that children can be exposed to. That's part of the reason why children also go to school. School teaches them how to learn, but it also teaches them how to function. Just like how adults are supposed to be able to function at a job when they're adults, school teaches children how to function within a certain structure. Okay, so back to this. So if you're an individual who suffered neglect in your childhood, it could be very difficult for you to take responsibility for your own life because you have no evidence that you can rely on yourself. So as a child, you could have been given simple tasks such as cleaning your room, organizing something, or even something you wanted to do yourself, like learning how to tie your shoes. So even though the children should be exposed to these types of activities, if there is no proper guidance or assistance, this can also be detrimental because a child can associate that particular failure with them themselves being a failure. And that can be difficult to undo in the future. Something that could have been a simple mistake could have been perceived as I am a mistake, or I can't do this, or I suck at this, instead of seeing it as a learning opportunity about what went wrong so they can learn how to correct their actions to get the desired outcome. Because if you look at life, this is what life is actually supposed to be. Life is supposed to be about finding particular things that you want to do or that you would like to be, and basically through trial and error figuring out how to get there. However, if you experience childhood trauma, it almost feels as if these things that you want are impossible to attain versus seeing them as maybe difficult roadblocks, but not impossible. So we kind of touched on this a little bit in this previous childhood trauma section, but this is another one that can apply to adults or children. So this is past failures. This is when individuals look at their life and they look at their past failures to try to justify why they cannot be successful in their present or future endeavors. So this is something that people have to understand. People's brains love patterns. Your brain loves patterns. It will basically create a pattern out of anything that seems to repeat a particular tendency. So the problem with this, even though there are a lot of benefits to this, is that when you create a painful association or pattern, especially when it has something to do with your concept of yourself, such as I was a failure, so I am a failure, so I will be a failure. Or I failed at that thing that I wanted, so I will fail at this thing that I want, and I will fail in the future as well. The negative part of this cycle is that, for one, it's painful. And then the second is trying to compete in a race and trying to do your best at the same time as hitting yourself in the foot. It becomes a self-sabotaging pattern, which makes it very difficult for an individual to sustain their progress. Something that might be beneficial for individuals who are stuck in this type of pattern is just the same way that your brain likes patterns. There are certain things that you can introduce to your mind that can help your mind start to slowly release the idea that you will be like your past. And for example, something that you could try would be I don't know the future. So only because I failed in the past does not mean that I will fail in the future. I don't know what's going to happen. I might as well try. Because if I don't try, I'm not going to actually get anything that I want. So I might as well try. And if I end up failing, then that's fine. I failed already. I thought I was going to fail. So what's the difference here? I might as well try. I might as well, learn something along the way that might actually get me closer to this goal that I want. Another thing that can cause insecurities in an individual can also relate to childhood, but it can also take place in adulthood as well. And this is neglect or unmet needs. Like we mentioned earlier, your brain loves to create patterns. And the problem with this here is that oftentimes, instead of seeing how we might be closer to accomplishing the goals that we're trying to accomplish or the standards we're trying to uphold, we see how we're actually further away from them. And not only do we see how we're further away from them, but we actually see ourselves as the individuals that are preventing us from succeeding. And the problem with this is that it's not like we're looking at one personality trait or one difficult issue that we might have. It's almost like people identify their whole personality as a problem, which can be difficult because it's something that would be pretty difficult to address. Instead of addressing one part, like I have negative thoughts about myself, or I don't like this particular thing about myself. It's more of you view yourself as an entire person as almost like not deserving of something. So it's very crucial for an individual who is trying to accomplish something, who especially experience neglect and unmet needs in their childhood, to find individuals who can support them in their endeavor to accomplish these things. And we want to try to switch I don't deserve for my needs to be met because they're not being met to I might have not been exposing myself to the right people. If I naturally like to give something to someone, there must have to be an individual who naturally likes to receive the thing that I love to give. And in that case, just the same way that you might need something like support or whatever it is for you in order for you to accomplish your goal, there is also another individual out there that would love to give that and who's probably looking for someone to give that to. So just the same way that people are created differently and they have different preferences, likes and dislikes, you have to find people who you are compatible with in that sense to help you accomplish the goals that you're going after. The last thing that I would like to talk about that can cause insecurities are not meeting your own standards. So first off, every individual, every adult that has ever lived has experienced conditioning. And conditioning is basically being exposed to certain things in society, especially by your parents or caregivers or those around you that are the closest to you, that teaches you what is acceptable and unacceptable about yourself. Based off of these things, it teaches you what your standards should be, basically, and what they shouldn't be. And then on top of this, there can be, natural preferences that you're born with and tendencies that you will just have naturally, which is a part of who you are. Okay. So what causes insecurities in this sense is basically having standards that you are not meeting. This can be so many different things. So it can be something like, my standard is that I need to be a productive individual and yet I'm lazy. Or it could be something like, my standard is to look a certain way and yet I don't. It can look like anything, basically. Anything that you feel like you should be doing or you should be able to meet that you're not. So the problem here is that you have to really look at these beliefs and you have to really look at your standards and you have to really see if these are standards that were basically instilled in you from your caregivers or the people around you that are basically not serving you or that you might not even want. And you have to really decide that for yourself and see, okay, is this actually something that I value? Is this actually something that I want? Or is this actually something that I was told I should want? Do I really want to do this thing, or am I telling myself that I need to do this thing because of XYZ consequences of not being that type of person, not being accepted, or whatever it is that you might be scared of? If you are to reevaluate your beliefs and your standards, it can be a lot easier for you to actually go out there and try to accomplish them because you won't have these polarizing views about what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, or what you really want to do and what you think you have to do. Hey guys, if some of you guys are interested in some more one-on-one help, I do offer some emotional processing on my website here. I will have a link that takes you directly to this page here in the description box below. Here it is. It's an emotional processing session. You can just add it to your cart, and here's a description of what I offer in this session. I also have reviews down here if you would like to take the time to read them if you're interested in that. And that's about it, guys. So I hope that this helped you understand a little bit about the root causes behind insecurities. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a good day, everyone.